And we're back. LinkedIn Live. Here we are. Here we go. 2 days in a row. I am so excited to be back. CX World Games 2021. It felt like we took a little absence last week, and all of a sudden we're back at it, strong and fast. I love it. Christopher Brooks, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to ask you to share a little bit more of an update. And we are joined by guest extraordinaire, CX World Games 2021 judge, Adrian Swinscoe.
Hey, Neil. Hey,
and
Christopher.
2020 champion. And 2020 champion.
And still reigning champion.
Still reigning. 2 more days.
No one's taking that crown away. Not yet, at least. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you for those that are tuning in and watching and listening. Christopher, share with us, please, if you would, a little bit more of an update from yesterday. Just talk kind of what you'd like to share with the community today.
I will do. We're into Challenge 5, so that's now live. So as you said yesterday, kind of we're getting towards the end of the current game setup. We've announced the first 3. Hang on, have we announced the 3 challenge? Yeah, we've announced 2. We've got the 3rd one ready to go. I know Adrian was involved in the judging, but the 3rd one is ready to go out. I saw the video this morning, so I know who the winner is. I know who's on the podiums. Just a little bit of editing to do on the video, and then we'll release it out there. And I know that really does give all the players kind of a motivation and a boost when it comes through. So it's great. And the owner of that particular challenge, it's a charity, a women empowerment charity called Resonate in West Africa. The lady who raised the challenge for us, Claire, has also identified her favourite within it as well. So we've got a double whammy, both the judges and the challengers nominated winners coming out shortly after this video, I would imagine. So that's one thing. Something else really interesting. I get quite a lot of emails and what is the customer experience game? What are you up to? And I got one yesterday, and I kind of was a little shocked when I opened it. It was from a chap called Adrian Melendez, and he basically said, I've seen your name associated with what I do. What is this? Now, Adrian is actually the founder of the Habasha project that we're actually looking at for Challenge 5. So this is the refugee charity. They help refugees enable them to fulfill their ambitions of higher education, if it's been taken away from them because they've had to flee the countries that they were hoping to study in. And he just contacted me. I've seen my organization's name mentioned. So I went back and explained to him, and he came back and went, oh my God, Christopher, Miguel has told me all about this now. This is absolutely fantastic. Thank you and everyone involved so much. So the great thing about it is you don't seek to get popularity votes or seeking to get recognition. But when you get something like that, the founder, and I kind of went back to him and said, it's nothing compared to the vision and endeavor that you have. And I'm just grateful we can make a small contribution. But it means so much when the founder finds out what we're doing and thinks that's a great addition to their organization. So that was a lovely thing to receive yesterday. I was really pleased to get that. That
is wonderful. I have my own small version of Customer Experience World Games happening right under my nose. So just a short shout out, a simple shout out to Alejandro de la Hoz, who is a team member in my company, Callzilla. And normally I wouldn't mention these types of things on this podcast. I would keep them separate. However, I found out that Alejandro is not only a participant and player in the CX World Games, he was recognized, I think, during week 1 or week 2 for his participation. Right. And I was so proud to find out, and I had no idea. I mean, here we are, we're doing these weekly sessions, and we're the podcast partners, and we're so involved. And yet I didn't know my own team member was involved, and I was so, like I said, I was so proud and really psyched up to find out that our own team members are participating. They're involved. Christopher, what you're building, hats off to you. You have a brand, and your brand is helping other organizations in an amazing, benevolent way.
But I think that's really cool, Neil, that it just happens in the background. It's not, people just get involved. I think it takes certain types of people. They're people who love to give, to contribute, want to make a difference, but they're doing it because that's important rather than the recognition is important to them. And that I think is the real magic of how this is kind of set up. So it's great to hear you didn't know about them. I've had the same thing. I've had clients actually participating in the LATAM games from Brazil, and I was talking to them and it came up in conversation. And I was thinking, oh, this is interesting. Someone else is running something like that. And it was the games we were actually running. So it's great when it kind of happens that people are involved because they want to give back. And I think, you've obviously, I mean, where is your colleague located?
He's in Bogota, Colombia. And Bogota, Colombia, while we have some participants, I think, from Colombia in the games, Bogota is by no means a primary jumping off point for global participation in these types of things. The Bogota community is sort of starting to, and I say this respectfully, wake up and discover all the amazing things that are out there that can be participated in. The role that our leaders in, and not only in frontline leaders, but senior management can play in these types of organizations. It's a relatively new thing, and I'm so proud of our team for doing this.
We last year set it up to be very inclusive, and we attracted players from 35 different countries. We didn't know how that would look because the origination of the games is from England. Lyntropy is based in Mexico, so we kind of thought we might get a bit of a bias there. But 35 countries, players from 35 countries. And when we first did it, somebody said, I think Adrian, you might have been one of the ones who suggested this to us, but someone said, well, no, why don't you make it kind of continent based or group based? And I think it was you, Adrian, said no, just don't. Let people figure out their own time zones. Keep it diverse. And it's one of the best decisions we've ever made because we've got people who have been, someone like Jonathan, who has been around for quite some time. It's like, every time I speak to him, it's like, oh my God, I'm learning so much from new people I wouldn't necessarily integrate with. And the pace and the way in which customer centricity is understood and applied differs across the globe. So you get all these different perspectives in. And I think, and it never was set out like this, but if it can be a different way, because we all need different ways to access it, but if it could be a different way for people to learn, brilliant. Then it helps the players participate. And there's an exchange there. So I'm giving up my time, I'm going to help others, but I actually get something as well from it. So I think having that, and therefore we don't restrict, people know it's the Customer Experience World Games, but if people are getting into this space, they can still contribute. It's not exclusive to say you have to have an accreditation or anything. At any level, you can kind of get involved. And if you're coming from any country, we'll mix the teams together intentionally. And I think that I genuinely believe that creates better outcomes in society when everything is blended together. So, we won't apologize for the fact that some of the time zones don't help everyone, because I think the beneficiaries who are the charities we're helping get a better outcome from us all. And I hope players appreciate that because, they'll make connections with people across different parts of the world. I remember you saying, Neil, when we spoke to Mandisa, that, you don't have too many contacts in South Africa. So it was great to get the perspective of South Africa when it comes to customer centricity. So that is probably, the thing I'm really pleased is it's still going in that respect. Geography means nothing because the challenges are universal and the players are coming together, and hopefully they'll keep in contact, some of them. Hopefully many of them are learning. We have another learning session in a couple of days' time with Nate Brown for people, so look out for that. That's going to be coming as well. But just keep pushing on, get that 5th challenge across the line, and we'll be making a difference in many ways.
Thank you, Christopher. It's a great update, and certainly more to look forward to sharing with the community as we start to wind down. You really teed this up perfectly as I want to switch the spotlight over to Adrian. So Adrian Swinscoe, many of you know. If you don't, I mean, good gosh, please follow Adrian. Please read his stuff. I call it stuff. I'm sorry. There's a diverse set of content that Adrian creates, publishes, and puts out for consumption, which I really encourage everyone to follow. Adrian, I have paid attention. There it is. There's Punk. There it is. Perfect. What a wonderful plug right there. Punk CX. Adrian Swinscoe of Punk CX fame, nevertheless. Adrian, you have recently put out 2 pieces of content. One was a podcast, and one was your most recent article in Forbes magazine. And they center around 2 topics that Christopher just touched upon. Inclusion in the article in Forbes, and in your podcast, your most recent podcast that you participated in was about diversity. What better way to actually live the message that you're touting in each of these pieces, inclusion and diversity, than judging what you're doing in the CX games, right?
No, absolutely. I mean, those are, so first of all, I want to say kind of big hats off to Christopher and his team at Lyntropy, including kind of, particularly Rodrigo, who is kind of doing a lot of the heavy lifting behind this, because I think some of the stuff that they're doing is, is wonderful. I know Christopher, and he talked to me about this idea, and then I started on a bit of a journey with him kind of like last year. And so I think it's been a wonderful thing. And I think it embodies that, the games embody that idea of diversity inclusion because it's so open. But the things I was talking about was to try and shine a spotlight on some of the things that some people are doing and trying to, in order to do that, because sometimes they can be really big topics. And so the diversity one was particularly in reference to a conversation I had with Dion Nicholas, I believe, and who runs a company called Forethought. And they're tackling some of the bias kind of problems in data sets and algorithm design and so on and so forth. And what he helped me understand was that actually, in order to do that, you have to not just have a diverse mindset, you almost have to go down to kind of having a diverse team. So it's like inputs, the people that you have around you are absolutely crucial to improving or producing better outcomes. So it's like a multi-dimensional sort of thing. And I thought it was just a really shines a spotlight on some of the work that they're doing and the approach that they're taking. And then the other piece was, again, based around, initially triggered by a conversation I had with a guy called Gavin Neat about a app that he developed that was to do with facilitating the experiences of disabled people, particularly when they visit kind of businesses. Now, disability and customer experience is something I've talked about before, based on a bunch of experiences that I've had and things that I've observed. And it's I just thought the work that they were doing is wonderful, and I wanted to sort of again shine a spotlight on it and to say, well, inclusion is about all sorts of different people. And there's some mind-blowing statistics that I found that, like, if you take a broad definition of disability that includes everything from physical to mental sort of challenges, then you potentially get to the point where 20% of the world's population can be categorized as disabled. And you look at that and just go, wow, and so there's all these different sort of things that I think that, and areas that I think companies need to start to tune into in order to make the experiences better and service better for those, those types of groups. So I highlighted Gavin Neat's work at with the Welcome Me app. There was the Talavo app, which is to do with the deaf community, which has got some amazing functionality, particularly the one where you can hold up your phone and it reads sign language and tells you, either can speak to you what the signer is saying, and or produce it in text, which is just like using kind of advanced technology to do that. And then there was another one, which was I forget their name, Hello Done, who are working with DHL in the UK to make sure that the delivery the last mile or the last few yards of the delivery experience for disabled customers is optimized, because often when a delivery driver maybe delivers a package to a door and they ring the doorbell and then they wait a few seconds for somebody to show up, well, somebody who has a disability may not necessarily get there in time to receive the driver. And so there's a way of just kind of closing that gap. And it's just like tiny little small things that can make a massive difference. And I just thought those were just 3 great examples for 3 different sort of instances that are making a big difference and can have some profound differences to people's lives and the experiences that they have.
Sure. Thank you for that. That was wonderful. Let's go back to the CX World Games and your experience as judge.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen? Tell us about what you've observed, what you've learned, the quality of the work, the character, the content. I mean, tell us what you've thought of it so far.
So the thing I was blown away by. So I started off. Christopher, started this and then asked me to be. I believe you asked me to be a captain. I don't know if did I volunteer or ask. I think you asked me to be a captain, and I said sure.
You put your hand up before I'd finished the first sentence, I think.
I'm like, yeah, I'll have a go at that. I don't know what that means, but yeah, I'll do that. And it felt really appropriate at the time. It was in the early summer of last year, and of all the stuff that everybody's going through, and it felt really appropriate. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And the thing that amazed me was, the quality of the people, the energy, the enthusiasm, the work ethic, all of those different sort of things. And I feel like I was incredibly fortunate to work with a team of people that produced some really fabulous sort of ideas and designs in response to the problems that they were and the challenges that they were posed. And to be fair, I didn't do very much. It was all them. I just came and sort of steered it a little bit, came in, looked at it, took a hand grenade and chucked it over the wall and go, deal with that, and to make them go, to almost to take the blinkers off, as it were, because people got stuck in kind of do or make mode. And so I was just there to kind of keep up the tempo and keep them kind of on track and maybe steer them a little bit or give them a bit of a push or ask them to think about this or think about that. So I was incredibly fortunate to work with some wonderful people on that team, and we were quite successful as well.
That's wonderful. And it's an amazing group of judges. I don't know if you interact as a judge with the other judges, but having the chance to also interact with the team captains and the players is just, like you said, you may just be throwing a grenade over there, but really observing the commitment and spirit that they've shared here is rewarding.
Yeah, I think the kind of the I know many of the captains, and I know some of the players as well, and I think it's it's just testament to to people, as Christopher said, people wanted to give up their time to try and apply themselves to some challenges that might help people that don't necessarily have the resources to respond to these, and they're wanting to lean on some of the experience and some of the expertise of some collaborative people around the world. So it's a fabulous thing.
Final question for you.
Sure.
At the beginning of the games, we interviewed Judge Jess Noble, and we asked her, Jess, we'll share some recommendations and some knowledge for the participants. What should they do? What should they not do? And if I remember correctly, if I could paraphrase, she said, don't use buzzwords just to use buzzwords. Don't rely on all these well-known terms. That was one of them.
Yeah.
And the second one, which I liked and resonated for me, was whatever the recommendations that come out of the groups, make sure they're executable, that they can actually be put into practice. As we wind down into this final challenge, any recommendations, thoughts, ideas for the participants as they put together their last bit of work to be submitted to the judges?
So So here's what I would say to build on to what Jess says. I would say, first of all, don't rush. Understand the problem that you're being presented with, and also, just as important, understand the client, because this is a client problem. It's not just a problem in isolation. There's a client and a problem. So you've got to have to understand both. And remember, it's not about you, it's about them and their problem in their context. In addition to that, I would say, don't be too quick to jump to a fix and to the buzzwords and frameworks and everything else. Don't over-engineer it. Two things I would say you have to aim for is simplicity in what you're proposing, but also how you communicate it. Because ultimately what you want to do, you don't really have a lot of contact with the client. You've got to be able to produce something which says, here's what we did, here's what you said, here's what how we understand it, here's what we kind of like we thought about, here's what we kind of did, here's what we're proposing, and here's how we believe that you can take it forward.
These are great. These are great. Keep it, as they say, KISS, at least we say that over here, keep it simple, silly, right? Mm-hmm. Keep it simple.
I guess the reality is if you're producing something that 9 experts in the field don't understand, then the owners, the charities who actually get all of the entries, we give them everything. We don't let them, we don't filter it. They get everything. So every keystroke, every moment that, and every idea that a player has is passed on to the challengers. So don't worry if you don't win. As Adrian was saying, the first games we played, I don't think you won the first challenge, but your idea was the one that was selected by the challenger as the one that went forward and made it onto the radio and became a real kind of good campaign driver for them. So, do make sure that you communicate it in a way that someone who doesn't know this world, because they've come to us after all, they don't have the answers themselves, will be able to understand. It's really, really important.
Yeah. I love the thought of getting to know the client and understanding really what's happening in the client's shoes. We all say this, many of us that work in a consulting role, that seems like a very obvious, easy thing. But those that don't work in that role on a day-to-day basis, that's not so obvious. It's not so easy to understand. But you're right, put ourselves into the shoes of the organization and operator that has to hopefully one day implement these things.
Put your shoes in the customer's shoes.
Yeah.
Is that not what we're supposed to be talking about all the time? It's like kind of like walk the walk, kind of like walk the talk. It's like customer centricity, client centricity doesn't matter. You have to think about who's the end customer or who's the end kind of client. What is it they see? Kind of what are they thinking? What are they kind of saying? And so sometimes it's never what you think it might be. That's why I say understand the problem and understand the context, understand the client.
And with Challenge 5, we pushed them at the start of the challenge. We suggested to players, and if you haven't done this, players, please do this, to go and look at the first video, because it's a really emotive connection to what Project Kabasha is trying to do. And in fairness to them, there's lots of videos on there. It might take a bit of time, do it in between other things, but you get such a deep emotional engagement for what they're trying to achieve that it almost provides you the context for the answer that you need. Which is part of their challenge, because their challenge is a capacity thing now, and because of COVID they can't actually execute the way they were going to before, so they need a way around the problem. So you get a lot of good feeling for what they really want from us from watching those videos. And it also, I found this particular 5th challenge so inspiring, to think that people give up their lives in order to help those who are, imagine sitting in a Turkish refugee camp thinking, my future doesn't have much. What a shame, because behind me I was just applying for university and my family are nowhere to be seen and I can't return home. And then someone finds you, lifts you out of that situation, gives you accommodation, gives you support for health, gives you educational support, and sends you back on the journey you were on before. Feel like you've been found like a needle in a haystack. What an incredible organization they are. So, for these organizations to say, we need a bit of help, you go, oh my God, buckets of it, give as much as we actually can.
Buckets of it. Love it. Let's conclude today's sessions on that thought. Buckets of help. I enjoyed hosting both of you. Adrian, thank you so much for your contribution, for judging, for your time, for your wisdom. We look forward to spending more time with you, hopefully here with CX World Games. And by the way, on our own podcast, we have yet to invite you on the Fireside Chats Without the Fires podcast. We're going to have you on at some point and spend some time with you. Just saying.
Would be delighted.
Thank you. Christopher, thank you so much as well for everything that you do, for leading us, and for your time and sharing the updates that you did. We will absolutely have another set of sessions scheduled, I believe, for next week, as we have more.
We have our closing ceremony as well, Neil. We have our big closing ceremony. So.
Closing ceremony, players, pay lots of attention. We have some updates, I believe, that are about to come out as far as results from the most recent challenge. Lots of great things to look forward to. Audience, thank you for paying attention to us today, for tuning in. We look forward to your continued participation in everything that you do. Adrian, thank you. Christopher, thank you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for your support.
CX World Games 21, keep playing. Play on.
Thank you.